pleased to introduce today's presenters. Dr. Randy Larson is the Associate Dean for Research in the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of South Florida. Dr. Howard Goldstein is the Associate Dean for Research in the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences at the University of South Florida. And Dr. Sylvia Wilson Thomas is the Interim Vice President for Research and Innovation at the University of South Florida.
The initial pandemic response research network began with 4 areas that we identified as critically important of where the university has assets and where we could make contributions. So that's what we did. We worked to identify research areas that are related to the pandemic. We then looked at creating faculty research clusters within these areas. So we were able to identify where we had, the intellectual capital. And then we looked to identify potential faculty leaders in each of these areas. And they were really coordinators. We identified coordinators. We also looked at where we would be able to work with external partners. That was the initial. As we began discussions with our faculty coordinators, the Pandemic Response Research Network expanded greatly into other areas that we recognized were not only going to be short time horizon problems, but would probably be intermediate time horizon problems. And then we needed to look at where we could make impacts there. Is these clusters, these hubs where we have these faculty clusters working in these areas, actually themselves are HIBAR in nature. So that's what was kind of, although we didn't build it that way, that's how it turned out when we were done kind of constructing the network. And it kind of made sense that this was an organic HIBAR network. By trying to address the needs, the urgent needs, we by default made a HIBAR network with HIBAR research clusters.
Institutional investment that was orchestrated by the Vice President for Research. The strategic investment pool of funds was used. There were also some matching funds from the Florida High Tech Corridor, I believe. About a little over $1 million was actually invested in 3 rounds of these rapid response grants. And I think that was a catalyzing force around the idea that we could get these individual faculty members to respond quickly. So we kept track of this for the first year or so, year and a half maybe. And we found that there were 156 proposals that went through the Sponsored Research Office, requesting $52 million. And there were about 39 awards of a total of $6 million that came from that. So there was a pretty sizable return on investment to begin with.
When we look at an institutional HIBAR network, we can envision it infusing research activity in different ways, right? Applying integrative approaches to challenges and solutions, moving beyond the traditional centers and institutes where there's flexibility to be creative and innovative to meet that challenge, that need that society is looking to address.
Biggest take home for me, and I think for a lot of our faculty, was that first, how eager our faculty were to form the clusters, to understanding that there was the challenge, and to come together and meet faculty that they had not met before or worked with before in relatively broad areas. So the bringing of those faculty members together was probably one of the most exciting elements of the PRRN. We rallied around a global challenge. We readily formed the clusters. Faculty immediately began working together, and really incredible outputs came out of that early PRRN cluster. If you provide faculty with these kinds of opportunities, they readily engage in those activities. These kinds of networks can be very powerful tools for bringing together transdisciplinary research efforts. And I think Howard also pointed out something very important at USF. There was a culture change in the way our faculty across the units thought about approaching these kind of research problems. So that is transformative for an institution to be able to start thinking that maybe we should really better leverage our faculty capital to be able to address problems that are global challenge problems, but more higher level problems.
Global issues across society. So USF envisioned our PRN as a model for institutional HIBAR networks, right? Fostering networks of research collaborations, reinforcing innovation, and even the capacity to address those societal problems as a collective. The PRN was a clear example, and we'd like for others to look at this as an example of research and innovation, a research and innovation ecosystem that connected academic experts across several disciplines with societal partners who contributed to the collaborative effort, particularly for long-term solutions.
Expressed surprise that there were faculty elsewhere that they had never met before that were interested in the same topics and issues. And I think that it made this university more entrepreneurial, more willing to branch off and apply their expertise in new ways. And it was a huge boon for transdisciplinary research, and it enhanced its value in the university. And by its nature, the societal problem married with our academic institutional traditions, it was this, in essence, lots of HIBAR projects within a HIBAR network, if you will. We're still talking about that as something that we need to continue to inculcate within the institution.